Welcome again to the Sutherland Report. Thank you so much for joining me, which is an absolute privilege that I do not take for granted whatsoever. One of the wonderful things about doing this show is that I get to meet some incredible people that are doing incredible things because they are passionate about what they believe in. Just as my dear friends across the pond that are facing their presidential election in November, we will be facing an election within the next 9 months. Part of our system means that within the tenure of a 5-year parliament, sometimes the particular seats of the MPs are suddenly people remove themselves from those seats through various circumstances, and we have what's called a by-election. And that means that fresh candidates from parties, the Conservative, Labour, Liberal Dem, and a party that I'm going to bring on their representative now for a party called Reform. And in a area called Blackpool South, I will bring up a map so I can show my wonderful American viewers where it is within jolly old England. I am now going to bring on the Reform candidate for Blackpool South, which is Mr. Mark Butcher. Mark, thank you so much for honouring me with your presence and for our discussion and to find out who you are, etc., and what's happening in Blackpool South. So thank you very much, sir.
It's my pleasure, Mark. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thanks for having me on the show.
Not at all. I'm just going to bring on a map just quickly to show where, well, it's a lovely picture of England, but to show where Blackpool South is. We will be in the background still, but I'm just going to bring this up. So here we are. The circle right in the middle there where that circle is. And it's really, really important to actually to show that. So Mark, you are the candidate for Reform Party, and in many ways it's an interesting name because there's no doubt about it that our politics on this side of the pond need reformation. Mark, if the incredible voters of Blackpool South, you win, you are then becoming their member of parliament. The by-election is on the 2nd of May, and you win that. How many seats do you think that Reform as a party will go on to win, as we as a country are on this, I believe, very important precipice, this important reformation that's needed, like Martin Luther of 1517? How many seats do you think Reform will be winning?
Well, we're less than 4 weeks away from the big day now. Quite frankly, we can win up to 300 seats. We can send political shockwaves right through Westminster. I mean, everything is based on this Blackpool by-election. If Reform show that they can win here in Blackpool, which I think we will, then the whole thing is going to be, well, we can take up to 300 seats. The red and the blue wall will crumble right in front of our eyes.
Could you elaborate on that, in the fact that, could you explain, because you use the red, the blue wall, that you are referring to the election of November 2019 when Boris Johnson, then as leader of the Conservative Party, we showed the map of where Blackpool South is. Could you talk about that red blue wall, the importance of it, and the importance of the heart of the Midlands, or just beyond that, sorry, of where you are?
Yes, of course. I mean, the bookies, they will create odds based on the outcome of the local election, and of course, if I win this seat, the odds of Reform winning in the general election will dramatically fall. It's more likely that once the pollsters come up with their polls, that'll shift overnight. I mean, everything is on this Blackpool by-election, as you've mentioned. Martin Luther King, in 1517. If people want change, they're going to have to make the effort to back the party that's committed to change. And that's what we want to do here in Blackpool South.
Brilliant. Well, it's Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but don't worry. Your point, the important point that you are making is totally valid because of Reformation. At that time, it was then Protestant, but we won't go into that line. But what you've said is absolutely right. Mark, you are a local person. Could you talk about the tangible things that the voters of Blackpool South need, the needs that are needed there to change things on the ground? We can lead into the fact of why voters should get out and vote, why they should actually vote for you. What are the people of Blackpool South needing and looking for right now?
They need somebody to fight for them. They need somebody to be their voice. What's happened is Blackpool has been run by both parties, the Conservatives and the Labour Party, over the last 38 years. They've invested nothing into our side of the town. All of the money that's been invested has been invested in the town centre. Over £1 billion has been spent on vanity projects in the town centre. Nothing's been spent on Blackpool South. And Blackpool South is the area where all the tourists, all of the main tourist attractions are. We've got the tower and all the piers, the pleasure beach. I mean, we get a lot of tourists coming to Blackpool, and it seems like the council are only focused on helping the tourists. I mean, look, it's very important for us to have a tourist industry, and we do need to help the tourist trade. But what about the people of the town? What about the people who are suffering? We've got a 10-year less than the national average life expectancy here in Blackpool South. I think it's one of the worst anywhere in Europe.
Wow. When you talk about the less than 10-year life expectancy, what are the reasons for that? Can you point to what are the reasons for that?
The main reason would be neglect,
Right.
Total neglect. And we have properties that are dilapidated, that we need to invest in good housing, affordable housing. There's no way for people to get on the property ladder. Our season ends, there's no jobs locally at the end of the season. So we have a season that finishes in November, and it doesn't open again till Easter. So people are, they don't have jobs. There's no housing. And, we've been totally let down by the government and by the local councils that have been here for the last 40 years.
So if you quite rightly say your season then ends in November, your season then kicks off until Easter. So you're then saying, what are people doing for 5 months? So in the past, as we look at Blackpool South, Blackpool on the coast, you've talked about the tourist industry. As we're looking at the map to the right hand side of that, what industries have gone? What jobs were there in Blackpool South? What did people used to do? And what jobs have actually left the area?
Well, we used to create things, didn't we? We used to make things. We don't make anything anymore. We had a local car factory, TVR, one of the best cars, I would say in the world. And TVR was one of the famous factories where people worked and enjoyed working for a reputable car maker. They left town. We've had a local company called B&M Bargains. They employed 1,500 people. They've left town. They've moved to Liverpool. The council aren't offering any incentives for these big companies to be here. I mean, if you look at we need to figure out something for Blackpool that can keep us going all year round. But if you look at what's going on in the music industry, for example, it's like London has got the monopoly on it's West and South London. They've got the monopoly on filmmaking and the music industry. But if you look, Blackpool has got a tradition from the 60s and 70s. The Beatles came here. We used to have some of the big stars coming to Blackpool, but it's almost been taken away from us. It's like everything's gone down to London. There is a north-south divide. And what I'd like to see is a film studio built in Blackpool. Invest some of the £1 billion that they've got left to spend on a film studio, and that we could fight the culture war. We can't fight the culture war if London has got the narrative. And I think I'm not sure, but I think it was London that voted to remain, and the rest of the country voted out of Brexit. And it's almost like they've hijacked the narrative, and they've hijacked all of the good things. They've taken everything away from us. And what we need to do, I want to be the person that fights to bring back, those things to Blackpool.
What an amazing answer, because you're absolutely right, because there's the history of it. I mean, if we think within our own television program, Strictly Come Dancing and all that goes up to Blackpool, there is such a history of creativity. And I'm suddenly thinking of all the northern clubs, the many comedians in our past that would be exercising their trade, etc., up there. But now, because of that, in many ways is gone, they then can't do that unless you move to London. You have that opportunity. So you've described a project that would be amazing to push forward there, because it would bring in so many opportunities, and also in infrastructure projects.
We haven't got any
Mark.
infrastructure. Everything's in London. All of the studios are in, I think it's West and North London. Everything's down there in Elstree, or I'm not sure, but where the names are. But the fact is, Blackpool's got a tradition for big stars coming to our town. I mean, you can name Cannon and Ball, there's Jim Davidson, Joe Longthorne, some of the big stars. I mean, they came to Blackpool in the early days of their careers. And Blackpool was a thriving, booming place to be. But everything has been taken away from us, and we need to fight back. We need to fight the culture war.
It's very interesting what you were saying about how the country, where it seems that those people that voted to remain have been rewarded. And
Exactly, they have. Yes,
Yeah.
they've been rewarded. That's correct.
Mm.
And we're getting punished. And it's time for change.
Absolutely. Mark, I'll give you an analogy here. So here's your job. So you're out there knocking on the doors. Okay, you've knocked on the door. Someone very kindly has opened the door to you. You've got 2 minutes to persuade them why they should vote, and then why they should then vote for you. What would you say, sir?
Well, we've got apathy on the doors, and if people want change, they've got to be prepared to back the party that about change. And I think it's important for people to understand that this is probably one of the most important by-elections in my lifetime. And we need to send a message. This is going to be almost like, it's going to. I would say that people are going to want to make a statement, and this is their time to do it. We've been brought up in a political system that's made us believe that only Labour and Conservative can run our countries, and it's the biggest con they've ever sold to us. So I would say to people, if you want to be able to complain about anything, then it's really serious. It's important that you vote. If you don't vote, then you can't have any say. I think it's going to be, people are going to want to hear and see honesty on the doorstep. They're going to want to see somebody who's integral, somebody who's willing to fight for them, and somebody who can't be sold off, bought off. I've been around here for 12 years in Blackpool, fighting the good fight, but not in a political way. I've been trying to help people. So I've got a reputation here in Blackpool. I'm a solid Christian. I believe in the Lord. I walk in faith. I'm not frightened to walk in faith and say that I'm a solid Christian. I believe in the Lord Jesus. I've got a focus that people will see. I've got tenacity, and I've got a reputation as well of not giving up.
Brilliant. Mark, could you talk about, so there you are, you're on the doorstep, you're pitching that to them, and quite rightly you've turned around and said that the biggest challenge you've got is apathy, is apathy there. Could you
Yeah.
describe, you've just talked about how long you've been there, some of the things that you've been doing and wanting to do good in the area. Could you describe some of the personal projects that you have got off the ground and what you are involved in?
Yes, I started off back in 2010. I was a street pastor. I learned. I was. I wanted to do something that actually had an impact, and I wanted to be on the coalface where it was happening, where the problems were. So I started out as a street pastor, and I was instantly drawn to the town's problem with homelessness and drug and alcohol abuse. So I went about helping people in the beginning to get clean and sober from drink and drugs. And I soon realised that we don't have a venue, we don't have a place for people to go to where they are treated with dignity. So I set up a charity which was called Amazing Grace, which is called Amazing Grace, and it's a ministry as well. I set that back up in 2012, and what we did was we offered people assistance, homeless people, a place to come on a Tuesday and a Friday. And that has took off. That went from strength to strength. We connected with local churches, opened different venues in different parts of the town, and assisted people with a hot meal, a place to come, somewhere to sit and have a chat, where they could talk to people without being, treated badly. So what we did is we offered a place in one place, and that has just gone from strength to strength. As I say, we're now in our own purpose-built building. We're in the process of buying it, which is the building on it's Amazing Grace on Bolton Street. And from that place, what we've done over the last 12 years is we've built what I would call a ministry of people. Now, we don't just serve the poor and the lost, we serve people in poverty, people who are just skint. Sometimes we find people who are just down on their luck, want to come for a chat. So over the last 12 years, we've created more projects that have come out of Amazing Grace through the volunteers and the amazing people that have got involved. One of the projects is the free food store. We didn't want to open a food bank because there's a real stigma attached to food banks in the UK. So I wanted to do something totally different. I saw that in the food bank, in the food bank industry, people was given bags of food in an undignified way. So what I did is open what I call the free food store, and people come in and they can choose 10 items of their choice out of the shop. They take the 10 items in a basket over to the checkout, and the volunteer scans them into a carrier bag. They go upstairs and have a hot meal in the restaurant. So we give them a choice instead of forcing them to have this bag of food they might not like, and it's some of the items in it. We give people a choice and give them their dignity as well. And when they've got their food, they come upstairs from the food store, which is in the basement, into the restaurant where we offer them another choice of a hot meal. So we have trained chefs who make a wonderful hot meal, traditional food, home cooked food. And sometimes people say, this is the only cooked meal I get in the whole week. I mean, we've actually got starving people in Blackpool. We're the sixth largest economy in the world, and we've got people starving in our town while looking at these £1 billion vanity projects. It's like showing a fattened calf on the spit and saying, there you go, you can look at it, but it's not for you. And this is happening. This is our people, our townsfolk are suffering. They're living in damp, vile flats with no energy, no electric or gas. I have old ladies coming, I have disabled people, women and children. So the Ministry of Amazing Grace offers more than just a meal. We offer a wonderful, friendly hand and to sit down and have a chat. We've got some fantastic volunteers who are full of empathy and love, Christians as well in there. We've got, we offer so much more than just a meal and food. But also at the same time, we have also built and designed and created the Big Red Emergency Night Bus. That's another one of our projects. This is a 10-bedroom hotel on wheels. We raised £100,000 to create the night bus, and that is available for homeless people who are living out on the streets from Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And what we do is we take people off the streets, put them on the bus for the 3 nights stay, keep them safe and well fed and clean clothes and showered. And while we've got them with us, we offer them opportunities, whether that be for drug rehabilitation, alcohol rehabilitation, homelessness. We can put them in touch with private landlords, employment, training. We do it all via the Big Red Night Bus. So directly ending homelessness in our town have made massive impact in the numbers. Actually, the numbers have dropped dramatically of homeless people sleeping rough in our town centre.
So you've really been putting your effort where your mouth is, where your money is. You're really engaging on the ground.
Very
and
proactive. Very,
right.
really proactive, to the point where my wife thinks I'm crazy. My kids think I'm crazy. Why do you do this, Dad? That's what they say to me. That you know why, and I know why. Sometimes difficult to explain to a young person what the spirit of faith is, what the power of conviction is, when they're going through their own journey with that.
I hear you very loudly, and thank you for explaining that, because I can imagine on Blackpool South, right on the coast there, that on the one hand there is this wonderful sort of facade, maybe a harsh word, where you've got all the amusements, etc. You've got the tourists coming up, but further back, beyond those front streets, beyond the sort of the main street, you then wonder what is going on, and you can see the deprivation and all the rest. Mark, we
We've got
touched
7
on it.
miles. Sorry, we've got
Sure.
7 miles of wonderful illuminations, and
Mm,
it's a 7 miles of Golden Mile, beautiful sandy beaches.
mm,
It's a fantastic town. Let me
mm.
just say that Blackpool is a wonderful place. We have 18 to 20 million visitors come here every year. In fact, we have a lot of people who come to Blackpool that came here many years previously with their families and had a great time and have good memories of being in Blackpool. Then they hit a crisis of when they're 40 or 50 and think, I know, I'll go to Blackpool where I've got fond memories of. So we get what we call a transient population of around 8,000 people from everywhere else, from all different towns and cities that come here in a crisis with problems. So yeah, it's not the shiny illuminations all year round. As I say, when we close down in the winter months, it's a ghost town, and people really do struggle.
Well, that amount of people, that amount of footfall, people traffic of 18 to 20 million visitors a year, and a number of those bringing money into the area. That's very, very important, is where that money goes, how that then is spent beyond that to help the local people. But Mark, we've touched on, and what you've just said about having a film studio, etc., I think is superb, because creativity, and we as a nation are known for that within the creative industries. There's so much income that we get from that. Mark, you are in this unique position because you're a person on the ground that loves the area that you are in. You are not parachuted in. We've talked about film studio. You've talked about, sadly, a car industry leaving. There are other industries that have left in regard to warehousing. What is the way to move forward in that? What things could you now begin to put in place, maybe in the next 9 months before the next general election? You become the candidate. What connections can you start to make? What connections can we help you with to start? What do you need from government? What do you need from the councils to then get this industry and get these jobs into the area?
Well, first of all, we need to look at our young people. We need to deal with the situation with our young people. We've got no opportunities for young people. So we need to find a way to help young people focus on their careers, their entrepreneurial careers. Our young people have got no jobs. They're losing hope. And also, we've got a new phenomenon, which is putting young people into debt. So I don't know, I don't remember when I went to school of leaving university with £100,000 in debt. We've put our whole generation of students into debt with our. This is a brand new phenomenon, and it's not done our young people any good at all to put them into crippling lifelong debt. So that's something we need to seriously look at, and whether or not we can abolish the interest on student loans. That would be something I'd be lobbying for straight away, to abolish the interest on it, because we've got some students. I mean, a doctor or a nurse, they're ending up in £200,000 worth of debt, and some of these students are leaving the country to get out of that debt and changing careers. So, first thing would be to look at that situation, and find a way to abolish the student debt, find a way to get these students out of debt, and that way we give people an opportunity then to move on from that crippling debt that they're in. So that'd be the first thing. Secondly, I would look at setting up entrepreneurial courses for young people who want to go into business. So we need an enterprise zone where we can help young people create new businesses. We've got a lot of entrepreneurs in Blackpool because the town is full of people that are hardworking and dedicated, but they're always trying to find new ideas to make money in the summer season. So we have, and it's well known, Blackpool to be a town of entrepreneurs. So I would push for entrepreneurial courses and help with creating businesses for young people. I mean, I've got one of our restaurants, Pizza Grazy, which is another project of the Amazing Graze Ministry. We've got 5 chefs in there running the whole operation. All of those 5 chefs are under 21. So we've got 5 young chefs running the whole pizza restaurant, running the whole operation, because they've been given the trust by me, because we've trained them to a good standard to run the whole operation. So that's just one example of young people running a local business very, very successfully, called Pizza Grazy. And it's high rating on the Google ranking and TripAdvisor. I think it's #1 for the best pizza in Blackpool. So it just shows you that there is potential in young people if we invest in them and trust them and stop demonising our young people. And the second part of the answer to your question would be to encourage businesses to move back into the area. And to do that, you would have to give incentives, financial incentives and business incentives. So help towards maybe the first period of rents. We've got a lot of broken shops, shut down shops, businesses closing down. What we need to do is offer incentives to bring back those businesses into the town, not just the town centre, the town as a whole, and stop pushing all our businesses into these out of town business parks that are just taking all the trade away from the town centres.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I love what you've just said about your pizzeria and training the five chefs there, because you had a model. It would be fantastic, as you sadly, with all the industries that have moved out, it'd be lovely to list those. But as you've said, to create an enterprise zone, what a wonderful, brilliant idea. It's absolutely needed. Mark,
Well,
what
Blackpool
is
South used to be the second choice. We as a town, we had Blackpool South was our second choice to driving into the town centre, and there was a lot of local shops in the Blackpool South, and there was a nightlife as well in Blackpool South. You know, to reinstate Blackpool South, you would have to create a business quarter on the. I mean, we've got areas of the town which are totally dilapidated. We've got buildings actually falling down on Bond Street, and there's the buildings are actually crumbling. One of them actually fell down, and so in the middle of these streets, we've got businesses trying to make a living and to create businesses, and it's almost impossible for them.
Right. But the other key thing is that you've got the local knowledge to be able to communicate that and put that over. Mark, as you go around your business, you go about your business within your area, and you already gave me an example in a conversation, so I'm going to, just own up to that. But how do the local people receive you, because they know that you are local, they know what you're involved with? Explain how they receive you.
Well, I can't go into town. I can't walk anywhere. My family won't. My missus won't come into town with me anymore because I'm known by everybody, including the ladies of the night, the drug dealers, the alcoholics. Everybody knows me, and I'm respected and trusted by not just the people that I've just mentioned, but by my peers, my board of trustees, the people around me, the volunteers that come to Amazing Grace. Of course, I don't get on with everybody because I stand up against the council, and sometimes that offends people. So I'm received should we say, you either like me or hate me. And I say that in the nicest possible way. Because I do challenge the council often, and I challenge departments of the council, i.e. housing options. They are my biggest issue. I'm butting heads with those people, and that creates all sorts of controversial issues, shall we say, locally. I'm not one for standing around and just allowing bad things to happen in front of me. I can't just sit and watch. So I've been fighting for 12 years, and I've butted heads, shall we say, with local politicians and councillors over the last 12 years, and I've held them to account on many occasions. And I go live on Facebook. The public know me. I've got a following on my Mark Butcher UK Homeless Campaigner page. People follow me on that because I go live and I do honest media. I'm not a media, but I'm a public journalist, if you like. I'm just a local guy who picks up on local issues, and I'm not frightened to stick a camera in your face and ask you questions about it, especially if I don't agree with what's happening.
And you do that, I would have thought, are you alluding to local councillors, local other politicians, up
Yes.
until this point? Right.
Yes, correct. And
Mark,
not only that, I will challenge individuals who are working in different departments if I feel
right.
that they're not doing their job correctly. And we have a terrible policy that Blackpool Council have, which is called no local connections. If you don't have any local connections to the town, then they don't have any. But they can just tell you they're not helping you, and they offer you no help at all. So those individuals who get refused by housing options under the policy, there is no local connections, they end up on the streets in shop doorways. So I'm the guy who goes and picks them out of the doorway, and they tell me these horrifying stories about the way they've been treated by these departments within the council, and I find it offensive that we've got homeless people out on our streets, but yet we've got a 4-star hotel which has got immigrants staying in the hotel. Now, the immigrants that are staying in the hotel don't have any local connections. Why is the policy just pushed upon our own people? Yet we've got our own people languishing out on the streets, and a 4-star hotel which is completely full to the rafters with people from countries we don't know anything about. And the homeless people themselves often challenge me and often ask me the question, why is it that the people in the hotel don't have to worry about having any local connections, but we do? I
Absolutely.
can't answer the question. I've got no answer for them.
And of course, one of the policies of reform is wanting to desperately deal with the whole immigration problem that we are seeing as we look across the channel. And you are just reflecting on that. Mark,
Yeah, no,
I
I
want
mean
to ask
that's
you,
another thing.
sorry.
Again with our history. I mean, we're only a small island. We can't. I mean, we've not got a massive landmass. Like we're not like America, which is absolutely huge, or Canada, or so. We're a small island. We've got over 3 million immigrants here now. We need to deal with those poor people that we've got here. Put a freeze on immigration so we can deal with the people that we've got. That's the
And the other
policy of reform, and I'd make no apologies for that policy.
Mark, when you discuss that policy, it's interesting when you say you make no apology for that. Have then people pushed you into a sort of pushed you into a position where they're asking you to apologize for that?
Well, you feel like you have to. We're living in a PC world now. You get called racist for being a reformist. You know, we we need to get a grip of the problem that we've got. We need to take account of the people that we've got here, and obviously the criminals there that are within those percentage of people need to leave the country, go back to their country of origin. I mean, it's a Maggie Thatcher. I admire. I'm not really a politician, but I admired Margaret Thatcher. I admired her solid stance and her leadership skills, and the fact that she would say, "No, we're sending them back on the same day that they arrive." People that are coming. And so I suppose that's what we'd have to do with the people that are still coming. We would have to send those people back to their country of origin. Instead of returning them to the UK, we would take them back to France or wherever.
And it's understandable that sadly the homeless people on the street are asking you and saying, "Well, why are they putting these people in this 4-star hotel? Look at me. Why is this issue not being addressed?" And you
They
are
are up in
absolutely
arms, Mark. They are
right.
up in arms. It's the biggest insult to them that you could possibly give them, really. I mean, some of these people have been forced out of properties through rogue landlords for no fault of their own. We've got a lot of issues with tenants and landlords locally. So, those people that have got, I mean, not everybody's a drug addict or an alcoholic that you meet on the streets.
Mm.
I have to really make this clear. We have a percentage of alcohol and drug abuse on the streets, but not everybody that I meet on the streets have got alcohol and drug problems. I've met some very, very smart, intelligent people through no fault of their own have ended up on the streets. And I can't answer. I've got no answers for their question. What about me? What are how much help can I get? And then they point at the hotel, and it's terrible, really, that we're treating our own people like this. We found the money. We found the money to put 3 million people in hotels, but yet we can't find the money to help our own poor people. What is going on? It's all wrong.
What percentage of those people, when you are going about with the Red Bus project and through Amazing Grace and through your pizzeria, how many of those people are ex members of the army, ex veterans, ex members of the military forces?
Well, I will say this. I mean, we do see a small number, but the army, the military, have an army covenant, and basically the soldiers sign that covenant, and that covenant gives them extra rights, if you like. That gives them a higher proportion. They get higher up on the council waiting lists. If the councils, of course, agree and sign up to the army covenant, some of them do, some of them don't, and even some of the ones that do don't in fact follow through on their policies of helping that individual. But I don't meet many soldiers. The ones that I do meet, I can get them assistance pretty much straight away through SAFA and the army charities that are available.
Brilliant, brilliant. Mark, you painted in some way a very, very sad picture of what's happening in of Blackpool South, but you've also painted the fact that you are really determined to do something about this, and the determination so far has meant that you have ruffled a lot of feathers.
Yes.
Do you feel that with your connections, you are in a position to be able to knock a few heads together and get various departments within councils, etc., that need to work together to actually work together.
Yeah, we need cohesion. We need to work together. I mean, we do work together in some respects. I actually, it's quite controversially, I've refused to sign the homeless partnership in our town and work with other people within that partnership. Now, that's based on two things, two reasons. The first reason I refused to sign it is because they wanted me to stay silent, which is I saw as a gagging order, which I'd never do. I'd never agree to that. And also, they wanted to share on with my data from the soup kitchen. So, and I would never share that data either, because I'm not happy with what might happen with that data. So, again, I didn't agree to that. So, controversially, in the council would say, well, Mark Butcher refuses to work with us. And I would say to that, no, I don't. I just refuse to work under those conditions. I refuse to be silenced, first of all, and I refuse to share any of the data that I've got, because I don't know what they're going to do with that data. I trust what I'm going to do with it, but I don't trust what they might do with it. We have something called social services, and it's been suggested that if people apply for more than 2 food parcels from the council food bank, they get reported to social services, which is totally out of order. And I have a no questions asked policy at Amazing Grace. People can come and they can just come and there is no questions asked. All we ask them is what their name is, and give them a membership card, and they can use that in the shop without any questions. Without filling any means inquiry forms out, and they can trust that I won't share that data with social services, because they'd be worried about using the service if they thought they was going to get reported to social services, and what that means is the children are going to go hungry.
Right. Why do that? What? Sorry if it sounds like a bit of a stupid question, and you've just answered it. Why do they want to? Do they want to buy your silence because they don't want the truth being spoken about the issues and the needs that they should be caring for? Is that why?
Well, everybody in the partnership gets supported by the council.
Right.
They have a wholesale food outlet where they collect the food from all the supermarkets, and then they share it out equally to all of the people in the partnership. But Amazing Grace has had a food embargo. They don't supply us with one slice of bread. We have to go out getting our food. Because we're autonomous. Amazing Grace is completely autonomous, and it's self-supporting through its own contributions. Then we don't have to buy into the regulations of the council. We don't have to do what they tell us, so to speak. Like, for example, my data. I wouldn't share that data with them for the individuals that use the soup kitchen. I'd share it with the police if they're looking for somebody who's missing, but I wouldn't share it for any other reason. So I allow the police to glance over the register if they're looking for a missing person. That's about as far as the sharing would go. But yeah, to me, it's they're not happy with the fact that I speak out, that I'm a rebel in their eyes.
Mm, mm.
I'm not a rebel, really. I'm just a normal guy trying to help my town, but they call me a rebel.
They call you a rebel because you don't do things in the way that they want, which means then being able to control, etc. Mark, we're in the last sort of 10 minutes of an amazing discussion, which I'm very grateful to you for.
Thank you.
Um, within the council, within other individuals like that you have to deal with, have any of them actually had experience in the private sector, or have they always worked within the public sector?
Most of them have worked within the public sector, to be honest. They're civil servants, left wing, Labour civil servants. That's what I'm dealing with.
Right, right. I
They
I
don't
hear
know how
you.
the real world works. They're inside their bubble. They should come out with me at 5 o'clock in the morning. They should come out on my homeless round when I go out and see people who are sat in the doorways, freezing cold, shivering. I mean, You know, we're seeing more elderly as well out on the streets, and more women. Blackpool has got a real, you know, homelessness. For there's not many. It's more males that are homeless, but we're getting a lot of females, a lot of ladies who are finding themselves out on the streets, broken relationships, and lost homes.
Hmm. Well, I can imagine the temperatures from October till Easter till the following April. I can fully imagine those temperatures going down considerably. Mark,
We do have something called the Severe Weather Emergency Protocol, which is
right?
sweat. So the government introduced sweat because we had one year back in 2000, somewhere around 2010, we had 19 people die in one night. So the council, the government introduced the severe weather emergency protocol. So the councils are now forced, when it gets down to minus degrees or -1, for 3 days consecutively, they're now forced to go out and get their homeless people off the streets into accommodation. And what they do is, it's terrible. They bring them in the cold weather. So it'll be freezing for 3 or 4 days. Then they'll activate the sweat protocol. They'll bring them in off the streets for maybe to 2 3 days where it's -0. But when the temperature goes back up to 1 degree, they get thrown back out on the streets again. It's absolutely disgusting. You know that we're doing this to our people in this day and age. You know, it's not just the homelessness. It's the way that people are being treated. It's the manner in which we are treating people that are in crisis. I mean, we're supposed to be a caring, loving Christian nation. We've turned into something that I just don't recognise.
I hear you. And the reason why because the reason why you don't recognize it is the reason why you have decided, with all your experience over the last 12 years, to get yourself into the political arena and to stand for reform.
Out
Mark, in
of
the
pure
last,
frustration, out of
right,
pure frustration,
right.
complete frustration. I was born and bred in Blackpool. I brought up on a local council estate called Grange Park, where we had a community. All right, we were skint at times, but we could go to the neighbour and ask to borrow a cup of sugar or few tea bags. We would help each other out. You know, the community that I once knew in Blackpool, it's just gone. We just don't have it anymore. Sadly, there just isn't a community. You know, you might find pockets of that on the local council estates where still neighbours talk to each other, but as a whole, the town, and we don't talk to our neighbours anymore.
Hmm.
Sad.
Mark, in the last few minutes, again, you've talked about the fantastic idea of getting a film studio, etc.
Yes.
With all the opportunities that would happen creatively, the then links with Blackpool traditional, all the amusement. You've talked about the fact that there's 18 to 20 million people that visit Blackpool, the opportunities of that in regard to the tourist industry and all of that. You've said a really key thing, which is what happens when the season ends in November to the following April. Mark,
Let's
it's
spark the
the
imagination of our young people.
mm,
With
mm,
no better way of doing that with music and film and the arts.
mm, mm,
There is
mm,
no better way to capture the attention of our youth. And not only our
mm,
youth, there's many people locally would love to get into the arts. We've
mm,
got a town full of talented people,
mm,
for crying out loud. Why are we not using them?
mm,
Why has London all of a sudden taken the monopoly on music, arts, and film? Let's
mm.
build a wonderful studio here in Blackpool where we can contribute to that and also make it better, because they would have competition, wouldn't they? They wouldn't have the monopoly on the narrative as well.
Well, absolutely. And I can tell you now from my own experience, it would be with being outside London, the beauty of that, the freedom of that, and having the land mass and all the rest, that would be amazing. It would make certain aspects of life extremely a lot easier to make those and undergo those projects. Mark, in the last couple of minutes, again, I come back to you. You've knocked on the door of one of the potential voters. Remind people what you want to do for Blackpool South and what you will then begin to initiate as fast as you can over the next 9 months to potentially when a general election will happen?
To bring people back into politics would be the first thing. To bring integrity back and honesty, so you trust the politician. Politics has become a dirty word. People don't like politicians. Well, I'm not a politician. I am a person. I'm Mark Butcher, and I'm a people. I want to bring people back into politics, trust and integrity back into politics, where whatever we say we're going to do, we do it. So if I use my voice and use my words, one thing about me is I would say this: if I say it, if I use my words and I speak it out of my mouth, I get it done. I am a man of my word. That is all we've got at the end of the day, our word.
Absolutely. So what you've described when you've gone into the town and there you are, and the fact that I can understand that people will want to talk to you at every single turn because they are asking for help and they know who you are. So you've won the election. The first day of being a member of parliament and having the privilege to represent Blackpool, what will you begin to initiate straight away?
First of all, we need a people's council. So we need the people's council. We need people to be able to connect with the politicians in their towns. So we would create a people's council where people can actually come and meet me once a month, sit down and talk about the issues that are bothering them. And then I would take that away and add action to it as well with the key members of staff that I would employ. I would employ some serious local people to deal with local issues. So within my staff that I would operate, I would have five key members of staff dealing with local issues on a daily basis with action, followed up by action and results.
Right, right. So there you are. Let's throw this one out again as well. Something to contemplate. There you are. You're as a member of parliament, you are given the opportunity to make a speech for the first time. But you also there is Prime Minister's question time, and there you are for the first time going right. I'm going to ask a question. What would you say personally right now to the Prime Minister of the UK, Rishi Sunak? What question would you ask on behalf of your constituents in Blackpool South?
That is a brilliant question. I would ask Sunak if he would take more time to consider the North instead of promising and failing us every single time. He's just failed us. They've failed the North. There is totally a north-south divide. And I would ask him when he would decide to stop failing the North and actually do something.
Mark, I have to say to you that I look forward to you asking that question. I look forward to you having the opportunity to ask that question. And I would just say that it's been an utter delight to be able to interview you and to spend this time with you and to basically hear your heart and your concern of an area that you care passionately about, because that is where you live. So I just want to, before I play us out, I just
Thanks
want to
for
thank
having
you.
me.
No, not at all. I'm just going to ask you to say, could I do this again, sir? Could we do this discussion again?
I'd be very happy to come back on the show.
Yeah, well, that is very, very kind of you. And I think I need to actually come down and visit you as soon as I
You'd be
can in
very
Blackpool.
welcome.
Thank you very much, because we need to see. I am fully aware of the issues that you are raising, and we need to see. I need to see this with my own eyes. Thank you very much for joining a privileged discussion that I have had with Mark Butcher, who
God
is
bless you
the
all.
thank you, which is who Mark is the candidate for Reform. The by-election is on the 2nd of May, but the most important thing that's happening within 10 days, the postal votes are going out and the postal
Yes.
votes will be signed. And Mark, is there a way that people can reach you if they need help to get those postal votes posted, if they are voting for you? Is there a way that they can actually reach you? How do they reach you?
You can reach me at the Amazing Grace charity. There's an information sharing mechanism on the website. You can also get me via Facebook, all of the other LinkedIn and all of the other ways. Main way would be to contact me through the Amazing Grace charity in Blackpool.
Okay.
That's the best way.
Brilliant.
And leave me a message. I'll always come back to you. I mean, we have got an issue with postal votes. The Labour machine would be probably, it goes out bullying people into filling them out. They don't leave people alone to make their own mind up. They'll bang on the door and ask the lady. They'll ask them to fill out the postal votes for them and pressure them into getting them filled out. So it's a bit of a dodgy area, if you ask me.
So our advice would be, don't be bullied.
Don't be bullied. Fill your postal vote in the allocated time that you've got. Don't be forced into it by the Labour or the Conservative machine coming banging on your door. It's actually illegal. And if that happens, really, you should phone the police, report them to the police. They're not even allowed to touch the ballot papers.
Brilliant. Mark, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to play us out with the outro. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please click like, subscribe, but go and look up if you are within the Blackpool South area. Thank you very much for watching. Go and support Mark. And as he has laid out, if there are any concerns, you know where to reach him. So thank you very much for your time indeed.